Good morning, everyone. My name is Evangeline Byers, train operator at New York City Transit, and a member of TWU Local 100. I'm making these videos reporting to everyone about what is happening over at Local 100. We're currently uh, in the midst of a hostile takeover, and the international president, John Samuelson, has basically waged war on our union. And he's doing everything in his power to try to manipulate the narrative and the membership into believing uh, that ex-president Richard Davis was removed or he resigned, willingly. However, the as we get more and more into what has transpired and taken place, it's becoming more and more apparent what it is that has just happened. So I really want us to look at uh, what is happening. Just give me a second. What is happening so that we can understand what it is that we need to do, right? To protect ourselves. We want us to look at, sorry, what is happening? So we can protect ourselves and our union from this takeover. Give me 1 second. I just have to check what's going on over in Facebook land. I'm so sorry. Just give me 1 second. Okay, so let's just jump in. So this is what's going on. So today, we received the email over at Local 100, the members of Local 100, we received the email of President, International President John Samuelson, basically releasing a timeline as to what happened with Richard Davis, right? And the problem with this timeline is that it was approximately 5 days, according to him, that it took to basically receive the allegation, um, launch an investigation, and basically 5 days all of this was done. It was scheduled for trial, and the TW at over at TW Local 100, the executive committee, which is not under our the executive committee, which is not designated under our constitution and bylaws to designate who the officer is going to be that will be uh, finishing out the uninspired term of the president. was implemented. And so, why this is important is because even though we know that Richard Davis has done the things that they've said he's done, what they have done by just removing him without due process is basically rob the membership of the right and the ability to have a say in what's happening over at our union, right? It is robbing up us of the right to vote for who we want to have in power. And so I just want us to go over the timeline. There is a article that came out yesterday in Work Bites, where they interview myself, they interview John Samuelson, talking about what is happening at Local 100. And Samuelson took it upon himself to call myself and other people who were commenting about who he was and his character and to who he really is and what is really happening, a bunch of muppety moist. Now, what that means is he called us basically communist insurgents, right? The real communist insurgent is John Samuelson himself. It is he that is trying to basically bypass the democratic process and basically install who he wants as the leadership of Local 100. It's basically a reorganizing of our union right before our face. And so we have a lot to be upset about. We have a lot to contend with because this is something that we, the members, saw that Richard Davis was compromised and something would happen, but not like this. And so let's look at the timeline of events of what it is that that has transpired. Now, what we have seen happening over time with Mr. Samuelson is that he has consistently, give me one moment. So he has consistently, what we know of Mr. Samuelson is that he has consistently lied about what is going on. Now we want to look at we the other day we went over the timeline of who he is and what he's done, but we need to further examine what it is. Over here, you see there are articles here about. I have an article over here that I want you all to look at, where it's talking about the hostile takeover that is happening at Local 100. And this is important because we just came out of an election and they basically just stolen our union from us. I've been getting a lot of calls from people. We will be talking soon to more people who can speak to the character of John Chiarillo, the person who was installed as the president of Local 100 without without the executive board making a decision. However, as you saw on the screen, we have we have created a petition uh, that we're sending around to everyone so that you all can sign the petition. This is demanding that we have a democratic process and that the members of Local 100 are allowed to vote who they want to vote for. And we've been through a lot this year, last year and this year. And as a union, we see that management has run rampant and there is no one to stop them. Uh, so I just want us to discuss, I want us to discuss what is happening and look at what John Samuelson said in this article in Work Bites. Let's see if I could pull the article up. What does it say? The title is just let's look at this article because this article is going to basically reveal to us what's really going on. Right? John Samuelson loves talking to the press, and we need to look at what is he actually saying. So here's the article. Just sour grapes from Muppety Moist or a hostile takeover by the International. Now, I also want to know that I'm very aware now that the press is covering uh, for John Samuelson. As you can see here, this article is by Joe Maniscalco. He has been working very hard to give a voice to the people in the labor movement. This is very important because what we have found is that the New York Daily News will not talk to us. The chief leader is bought off by the local. They never they used to carry our stories and from the voice of the members, but not that much, especially when we are critical of the administration. But I wanted us to read this article and go over it by Joe Maniscalco because it basically highlights what it is we're dealing with, and you get to hear from some of the members who understand what is going on, that so that you can hear from other voices other than myself. We now know that the head of the union representing more than 40,000 New York City workers is officially out. Former TWU Local 100 President Richard Davis resigned under pressure last week amidst ugly allegations of inappropriate sexual behavior and outrageous abuse of power. But why just now? Many rank and file members wonder when these kinds of complaints have been swirling around the man for years. We just came out of an election, train operator and TW Local 100 presidential challenger Evangeline Byers told Work Bites. They knew all of this was happening. They did this in order to take our union from us. It is a hostile takeover by the International. TW Local 100, the largest workers' union in the United States, all the money and funding that goes into the International comes primarily from Local 100. And this was a power grab to basically put who they wanted in charge. TW Local 100 initially told the public Davis was out sick until further notice. In reality, TWU International President John Samuelson had already suspended Davis on January 21st in response to an internal investigation into allegations from an unnamed Ms. John Doe, according to the report. David subjected Ms. Doe to unwanted sexual comments after being hired in 2022 and ultimately terrorized into becoming his sex toy. She expressed that she felt if she did not have sex with Mr. Davis and do what he wanted, her TW Local 100 bargaining unit job would be in jeopardy and she would be terminated. The January 19th investigative report states, according to Ms. Doe, Mr. Davis played on this fear and reportedly telling her she needed the flexibility of her TW Local 100 job for her children. Former MTA bus operator Nicole Hecker, however, filed a complaint against Davis in Kings County Supreme Court long before that on December 14, 2023. In that complaint, Hecker alleged Davis viciously assaulted her on more than one occasion during a 5-year relationship with him. The complaint further asserts Davis has a history of animus towards women that is extensive. I'm just going to stop right here because I want to delve into that. Remember, throughout the campaign process and before we got very close to the election, I played a video and it's on YouTube. You can go and look at it. It's with a young lady named Angelita Barkis. And during that time, the Transit Authority was coming after Ms. Barkis. And what Mr. Davis did, which is in line with what the article is talking about, right? About his abuse of power, his relationship with management, and threatening people's job and to take their jobs from them. Now, the Transit Authority knew about it. The union knows about it. Everybody knew that this was going on. We had the audio and we have the audio recording of what it is that Davis did. And in that recording, Davis tells Angelita Barkis, right? He tells her that not even God can save her job and that she needed to rely on me to save her. Go to Evangeline and let Evangeline help you. Right. And so because we have I have legal representation on retainer, we were able to contact our attorney and I had to pay out of my pocket to help Miss Angelita be able to keep her job. Now, mind you, we have a full union in place. We pay union dues. But because of what Mr. Davis was trying to do to Angelita, which was hand her over to the to management to just basically fire her, right? And basically withdraw the resources and the protection of the bargaining unit of our union from Angelita so that she could be terminated. Or because she stood up to him and challenged him and called him out on the fact that he was not protecting the membership, right? And so as we're looking at this article, written from not the voice of the international president, but allowing the rank and file members to have a say, that Ms. Hecker's voice is being heard and the Ms. Jane Doe's allegations are being laid out in a way that does not support the narrative of John Samuelson. And this is very important because the press is not supposed to be one-sided. It's not supposed to be one-sided. It's supposed to protect, and I mean, not supposed to protect, but supposed to give a voice to people and hear both sides, right? And so what we've been seeing played out in the press is this well-crafted timeline that almost every day we're seeing some new development around Richie Davis. Now, another thing about Davis removal that is very problematic is that nobody, even in government and in the laws of the land, do not allow for you to be arrested and charged without due process, right? They have to, you have to be allowed your day in court, right? You're usually not just basically, your rights aren't usually just violated in the ways his were, right? And so this is very serious because that means that somebody can bring allegations against anyone. And even if it's not founded, that you can be forced out of your position or membership based off of allegations, even if those allegations are not founded, right? Now, by no means am I defending Davis and his behavior, but what I'm saying is that for all of us who are members, this is not right. This is not right. The whole process has been violated, right? So I want us to now look at the timeline of events that Samuelson laid out, right? So that we can continue to look and examine what is going on because John Samuelson is not innocent. Okay, he's not innocent by a long shot. John Samuelson has done a lot to uh, to hurt this union. When he was the president, he protected people who were sexual deviants, right? He provided legal representation for the likes of Aiken and Austin. And so I want us to really, really understand this because this is our union. And if we're going to be able to be in our union and participate in our union, we have to look at what is currently happening, right? And we have to be in the fight. One second, I'm just pulling up the letter from John Samuelson that came in my email today. No, that's not it. Here it goes. Here it goes, because he's not taking our union from us. Okay, so let's examine and look at this letter from Samuelson. So here is what the international president, this is what he released today, right? And I want you to look at these names: John Samuelson, Alex Garcia, Jerome Lafragola, Curtis Tate, and Mike Mays. All men. Go figure. Says on January 28th, as you know, Richard Davis resigned. This is Samuelson's voice. Okay, so I want you to understand, I want you to look at the timeline of how to steal a union. As you know, Richard Davis resigned as TWU Local 100 president on Tuesday, January 21st, as the international president of the Transport Workers Union. I want to be clear about how events unfolded. January 16th, a female staff member of TWU Local 100 came forward to the International to report that she allegedly was the victim of a coercive sexual misconduct. She also alleged Davis threatened her with physical violence. The International immediately asked experts from a private law firm to conduct an investigation. Now, I want you to understand something. Anytime you're paying a law firm to do something, it is not an independent private investigation because you control it. The law firms, and when you pay these outside agencies to do investigations, they almost always bring back decisions and determinations of who has paid them, right? Not saying that this Jane Doe did not do what she was that she did not do that Davis did not do what she alleged. However, what I'm saying to you is that this independent private law firm who came in to investigate, there is no way possible that a law firm that was contacted on the 16th and looked at information concluded that these allegations were right and true. January 20th, the law firm informed the International that the claims were highly credible, describing the evidence against Davis as extremely strong in relation to sexual misconduct, threats of harm, termination, and loss of pay. And then one day later, on January 21st, the International suspended Davis and set an internal union trial on union charges to begin this week. January 22nd, the International was informed that Davis had resigned. But what this whole story is missing is that Davis is resigning with a severance package that he negotiates with John Samuelson and the International, where he's leaving with $500,000. He's being paid, his medical benefits are going to be paid throughout until 2026. He still has a pension at Local 100 and set to get one from uh, the MTA as well. And so he goes on to say that Davis' behavior is appalling. The International acted swiftly and decisively in accordance with the TWU Constitution, Local 100 bylaws, and policies. This has been a deeply unsettling. Above all, my duty as International President is to ensure workplace safety of our members. Let me be clear, there's absolutely no room anywhere in our union for sexual misconduct, coercion, or harassment. Really. Now, I want to finish talking about this timeline and what it is that we're looking at, because the fact that Samuelson thinks that we are so stupid that he can put this narrative before us and we don't challenge it. If you look over in the comments where the comments are, I put there. If you look over in the comments section, I put up here. I put over here some articles that share the history of men who, under John Samuelson, were rampant. When you get a chance, click those articles, read them for yourself. You're going to see Tony Aiken, Frank Austin. You're going to see what they did to women under John Samuelson, right? And so it's important to look at this and read these articles. I'm going to find the docket for the lawsuit that went out against these men. Now, John Samuelson all of a sudden has now begun to act as if he is protecting women. We know right now that John Samuelson knew about Nicole Hecker. He knew about what was happening with her. His attorney is Dennis Engel, right, to the International and the Local. If anybody, along with you know what? Let me just let's finish reading this article. Let me go back to the article and excuse me, finish explaining and going over what it is that is transpiring. I just want us to read the article because it really sets the stage and the tone for all of us to understand what is happening right now. Here's the article. Okay, so we stopped around here. On December 21st, 2022, the complaint charges a scathing email was circulated around the MTA to union officers and even to Governor Kathy Hochul, alleging sexual misconduct against various women perpetrated by the same defendant, Richard Davis. The plaintiff's name and photograph was attached to the email, yet no disciplinary action was taken. Just think about this. Ms. Hecker was working at the Local, at the hall, right? Nothing was done when she made a complaint and they knew about what was happening. The complaint goes on to state that Ms. Hecker was aware at this time that previous instances of sexual harassment complaints being logged against Davis in 2009, 2011, and 2012 were all dismissed without any ramification to Mr. Davis. Therefore, she felt she had no recourse due to the pattern and practice of the TWU and MTA. According to the complaint, Ms. Hecker saw the futility in complaining at the time and made the decision that only consequence of filing a formal complaint would be either retaliation against her or hardship at work, not any adverse consequences or remedial measures taken against the defendant. Davis, nevertheless, captured the TWU Local 100 presidency last month. Now, this is where it gets even, more disgusting. And this is where it becomes very, very clear that this is a hostile takeover. Davis, nevertheless, captured the TWU Local 100 presidency last month, running as the incumbent. The union's executive board originally installed him as president in 2002 in a 41-0 vote to succeed then President Tony Gaetano, who decided to relinquish the spot. Gaetano was initially appointed TWU Local 100 president in 2017 after John Samuelson won a victorious election to lead the 150,000 member TWU International. Now, I want to really hone in on this section right here, okay? Because in this is just a sequence of appointments. John Samuelson appoints Gaetano, Gaetano appoints Davis, right? So we see a pattern of practice. In 2017, Samuelson appoints Gaetano. Gaetano decides to leave Local 100 and retire, and he appoints Richie Davis, right? And by way of the executive board, that is under the power and control of the president, because most executive board members do not understand that they are the supreme governing body of Local 100, and the only people or anybody who can reverse their decision is that of the membership at large. And that is what we are focusing on. That's why we need you to sign the petition. That's why we're preparing and gearing up for what we're going to do next, our next steps, because it is important that the membership understand that they have the power. This is what we have been, what we're dealing with, a hostile takeover, appointment after appointment after appointment, right? Then we have elections that are stolen from us, where ballots aren't sent out, all type of internal corruption and problems. So I just want us to really look at what is happening here, right? So you see the pattern of what we have been enduring and what has been going on for a very, very long time, right? Appointment after appointment. Now, not even the executive board did it. They just gave the presidency to John Chiarillo, bypassing the executive board and putting him in, installing him by way of the executive committee, who had no authority to do what they've done. TWU Local 100 announced Davis' resignation due to health reasons, along with the appointment of John B. Chiarillo as interim president on January 25th. As the Chiefs, Richard Caveen, if I'm saying his name right, points out, this is now the third straight time an appointee is taking over an outgoing TWU Local 100 president without the benefit of the election. Do you see this? Do you all see? I want you to read that this is what journalism is, right? Journalism is not telling the story from one side, but giving a total scope of what is happening. And what the Chiefs, one of the Chiefs, I think, who is this? The Chiefs, Richard Caveen points out is that this is the third straight time an appointee is taking over an outgoing TWU Local 100 president without the benefit of an election, right? That's why we have this petition circulating that says not 3 years, not 3 weeks, okay? Although I am currently challenged, I myself, along with my team, the Stronger Together slate, we are challenging the outcome and the decision of the 2024 TWU Local 100 elections, right? We are currently challenging them. And in that challenge, what we are looking at and what we are challenging is that we were not given the results, right? We were told that Davis won, but we never saw any paperwork. We never saw the ballots that came out of the machine. Nothing, no timestamp of who won what where. Never was shown to us by AAA. As a matter of fact, when I went over to AAA, they said to me, give me a second. We're almost done, and I'll call you in and you can see everything. Well, when I came back in, AAA had packed up and was gone. And the union, the incumbent, the challenger, was telling me and dictating to us who, in fact, won. So, once again, the local was in charge of letting us know the outcome. That was supposed to be in the hand of not even the elections committee, but AAA themselves, who was hired to administer and deal with the election. They have become so comfortable in stealing elections, right? That they feel that they don't even have to give us proper notification or let us see what's going on. And again, a part of the petition, when you read it, it talks about suspending that 18-month rule for appointments and also the disqualification of candidates who ran in a prior election from being able to run in the next election. Let's continue on. It's always been appointments, appointments, appointments. Buyers running mate Ed Gator told Work Bites this week. We've never had an election where we had candidates come out and go against the union establishment for a long period of time. Everything has been done by appointment. The rank and file have tried to fight this on several occasions, but there's a lot of indiscretions being done to the members as far as election balloting, election rules, and management interfering with the election. There are a lot of things that happen while those so-called elections are supposed to be going on. They're fake elections. It's a kangaroo court that we have. Samuelson told Work Bites that Mrs. Doe's complaint against Davis and the internal investigation resulting in his decision to suspend him last week was the only thing ever presented to the international by a member, and is completely different from Hecker's case. Nicole Hecker never made a complaint to the international, Samuelson said. This is completely different. We have a victim that reported to the international. Do you know how disrespectful this is? I'm going to stop sharing. Do you realize how disrespectful that is? At our local, we have not only trustees that oversee the area where Nicole Hecker works, but we also have Dennis Engel, who serves not only as the attorney to Local 100, but also to the international. So everybody knows what's going on. Do you think when they opened up the papers about Ms. Hecker's story and it was all across the news, it was the talk of Local 100, there were videos being made about it everywhere. Do you think that John Samuelson did not know? He knew. So you mean to tell me if you know about something, you can't intervene? You can't say anything. Only if it's directly reported to you. There's no phone call made to the local or anything else. It's all a farce, okay? He's such a fraud, and he needs to be exposed. Actually, he needs to be ousted from the international. It's something that we need to work on, and we need to keep, pressure on Samuelson. Let's go back to the article. It's just disgusting. Nicole Hecker never made a complaint, he said. Samuelson said, this is completely different. We have a victim that reported it to the international. Such a loser. Such a loser. As criticism for failing to sanction Davis sooner, Samuelson said, that's just a case of sour grapes from a pack of political losers. They're a flock of muppety moys with no political support inside Local 100, he said. They couldn't beat a seriously flawed candidate, and now they're trying to use the victim and her tragedy for political purposes. Shameful. Samuelson further insisted the turmoil surrounding Davis' exit and the subsequent appointment of John B. Cirillo as successor is actually separating true trade unionists that care about the local from opportunists that want to use tragedy of the victim for a second bite of the apple. First of all, Mr. Samuelson. The only Muppety Moist communist insurgent is you. You lined Richie Davis. You knew that Richie Davis was a flawed candidate. You allowed him to run. I myself sent letters to the local talking about Davis and how he should have to step down and recuse himself from leadership because of what he was doing. But no, sir, you turned a blind eye, as you have done continuously and continue to do. This is why we are launching Me Too TWU, because it's time that the members be heard. In days to come, you're going to hear me bring names before you like Ronaldo Rios from who's formerly the chairman of Mother Clara Health Depot, who is now over at Quill Depot because of allegations, again, allegations of sexual harassment. This continuously happens in the division of MAPSTOA. Doesn't mean that it doesn't happen other places, but we constantly see this around other places. I was talking to someone earlier, and they were telling me they were in a grievance hearing. And in the midst of the grievance hearing, that he alleged that Mr. Rios was hitting on the arbitrator who was conducting the lawyer who was conducting the grievance hearing. And the person who was sitting there had to tell him, "What are you doing?" The woman went off and would not come back on. Right? And he exclaimed, "Oh, she's beautiful. She's beautiful," said the person who actually was in the hearing with her, and said that this is the behavior that is over there because this culture came from John Samuelson. John Samuelson has consistently defended people who were found and known to be abusers. This is who John Samuelson is. He doesn't protect women. He doesn't protect women. The stories and the articles that I posted in the comments for you all to see, they all come from John Chiarillo. From John Samuelson, right? Chiarillo is nothing but their bagman. That's it. There's nothing good about him. In the papers today, or was it in the papers? Somewhere I saw today that John Chiarillo put out a statement that he's going to match the reward for Crime Stoppers to catch the kids that were on the train. Do you realize that they will take the resources of the union to do everything else for anything outside, but do not protect the workers? Do not protect the workers. The transit authority is responsible and should be matching whatever the Crime Stopper reward, not Local 100. We're not responsible for the safe subways. The transit authority is. So why are we taking our limited resources for some kids who stole trains because the transit authority refuses to secure the subway system? Right? All of us should be thinking, when we see these kids stealing trains, that could be a terrorist. That could be terrorists. That means when you go to get on your train and you're walking through your train, checking your train and doing whatever that you have to do on your train, that you are not safe. And safety at the transit authority and Local 100 put service over safety. Let's get back to this story. So, Mr. Samuelson goes on to say that we're using the victim's story for political purposes. Now, I always tell you all that everything is political, and what is happening right now is very political. Not because we made it political, but because John Samuelson decided to not allow the process for Davis to be removed to happen, but to basically force a resignation, force him into a hearing, right? And then in the process of it, negotiate the package for him. If Davis resigned, why was he given? Why was he given a package? Why was he given a severance package of $500,000? Why was Davis given a severance package? Why are we paying his uh his medical his making sure he has medical insurance up until 2026? Why? Why is all of these things? Why does this happen? It does not even make sense. If someone resigns, there's no severance package. There's no severance package in a resignation. There is no severance package in resignations unless they are forced, right? Davis went from being sick. Now, mind you, while they're reporting to the members of Local 100 that Davis resigned due to illness, there's a whole nother story going on in the public eye so that Samuelson can look like the hero. It is Samuelson's protecting sexual deviance at Local 100 that emboldened Richie Davis to make comments about taking people's jobs and his relationship with management. Okay, his relationship with management, that he could hurt people and make them lose their job, and he had that type of power if women did not acquiesce to him. But remember remember Local 100. Dennis Engel is representing Davis in the Hecker case. Nicole Hecker, the victim, had to go get her own counsel while the local protects Davis. So much for women being safe in a union full of men. Samuelson Byers and her slate have filed a lawsuit against the American Arbitration Association for allegedly failing to hold the integrity of the latest presidential election. They also charge the MTA interfered with their ability to campaign and contest. This would be an administration that could not hold, that would not sell out to the MTA, Byers said. So that is the threat. I want us to discuss this because I want us to discuss this, right? And here's why. When you look at this last election, I have video evidence of the MTA's leadership blocking us from entering depots and going about campaigning. This was the first time that management was empowered to step in and violate the whole process. I mean, physically accosting us. And so it wasn't only me that experienced this, it was my team as well. But I turned on my camera and started to record because I needed evidence as to what was happening to me. All during this time, I'm up for termination, forced a PDS, I'm suing in Supreme Court to deal with those issues. All of this is happening. And Davis, who is known to retaliate against anybody who goes against him, especially a woman. Everybody knew what was going on and what was happening and did nothing. And so we are now suing AAA for not giving us the election results. The chain of custody in that was broken. We never, ever got the election results. We don't know if, in fact, the election results are true. And if they are, then we would accept it. However, we were not given anything. And in departments where we knew we won. We saw that we won. All of a sudden, we lost. And when we asked for a recount, we couldn't have it. So we are moving ahead. We are suing uh, AAA, and we're going to be successful. We are definitely going to be successful. So I want you to understand that it is all political. It's all political. So we're not using anything. We were already in the midst of the fight. Just these details and moves have taken place in the process. But we were already in the midst of the fight. Samuelson is just mad because he has a woman who's not scared of him and who has now put her stiletto in his neck. And I'm not taking it off. Hecker's attorney, Tricia Lindsay, meanwhile told Work Bites this week her client didn't share or submit her complaint to the International, but that the complaint was submitted to Hecker's employer, TWU Local 100 Child Care Fund. CCF Board of Trustees represent both TWU Local 100 and New York City Transit, right? You heard Liba today talking about, oh, with allegations this serious, Davis cannot be back on it. If he tries to come back to work, he will not be allowed. But there was nothing said when this was going on. The onus should have been on Local 100's trustees to notify the International if that is their internal process. In addition, the union's attorney, Dennis Engel, is currently representing Davis in the case. Okay, so the International, who is so pro-woman, is currently representing Davis in the Hecker case. Just let that all sink in. I want this to ruminate and for us to understand how hypocritical and to see the hypocrisy in John Samuelson. He should resign for cover-up and corruption and not protecting women and not adhering to his oath of office. He should resign. Let's go back to the article. We're almost done. Hecker's case is in the papers. Hecker's case in the papers means he knew. I commend him for moving swiftly, but perhaps if they had taken all the complaints about Richard Davis' actions over the years more seriously, we could have prevented all the harm he has caused, because the fact is they all knew. You understand that? They all knew. Everybody knew. John Chiarillo knew. John Chiarillo knew, and he did nothing. John Samuelson has been repairing subway cars in Coney Island for more than 40 years and served on TWU Local 100's executive board several times under 5 different presidents. He also says Davis' alleged abuse of power has been well known for years. It's nothing new, Samuelson said. But Samuels to say, oh, we only found out 3 weeks after the election, it's a total cover-up. It was a cute move. You've just got to peel the onion and you'll see that it's really a way to get their man, John Chiarillo, appointed for the next 3 years. Byers further blasted Samuelson for cultivating the kind of culture within Local 100 that allowed Davis to allegedly abuse his female subordinates. This is what President John Samuelson did. While John Samuelson was president of Local 100, on his watch, there were division officers who were sexually stalking, harassing, and abusing members of Local 100, and he did nothing about it. Byers told Work Bites. As a matter of fact, he gave them legal representation, i.e., Richard Davis, who has abused and and Nicole Hecker was had in court, was being represented by Dennis Engel. Again, Samuelson's thumbprint is on it all. This is where Richie Davis became emboldened to feel as if he could violate and abuse women and nothing can happen because that culture of abuse and violence towards women was cultivated under the John Samuelson administration. And everything that I said is well documented and founded. And I'm telling you, in the days to come, we're going to look at what is happening right now in Local 100 and what is going to be happening that has happened in the past and what is happening going into the future. Well, not into the future, but present day. What is happening present day? Hecker's attorney commended Ms. Doe for standing up to Davis now and pressing the cause that ultimately led to his suspension and subsequent resignation. Clearly, she was smart enough to bypass the local 100, the local 100 and go to the international. Lindsay said, "Local 100 did nothing to vindicate Ms. Hecker. In fact, Ms. Hecker was placed on leave while they conducted a sham investigation in response to her complaint and found Davis did nothing wrong. It's time to change the culture of TWU, of Me Too TWU, and the MTA. I hope this is a sign of that change and not just an effort to save face to stem public scrutiny and avoid accountability on the legal front." Workbites reached out to the MTA for comment on this story, but is still waiting for a response. This, my friends, is what is going on at Local 100. Clearly, an abuse of power. Women are not safe, and it is a cover up. John Samuelson's attempt to hostilely take our union from us and think that there's nothing that we can do about it, right? That there's nothing we can do about it has to be challenged. It has to be challenged, right? He cannot continue to do what it is that he has been doing and think that nothing is going to happen. Power concedes to nothing without demand. And we are demanding elections at TWU Local 100. The power of the people will always be greater than the people in power. We are the union. The members are the union. The union is not a piece of paper. The union is not the leadership. And it is very sad. It is very sad that this mighty union, or this union, or TWU Local 100 that used to be known as a mighty union, has fallen for grace. Quill has to be turning over in his grave at how they have made a mockery of what once was such a powerful and strong force of labor power, of worker power in the country, especially in New York City and state. Now, we're just a cash cow for political, uh, for politicians seeking public office, and for whoever else needs to be paid off for favors. We no longer are a mighty union. This is now a company union. The transit authority has all power, and we are fighting to restore it. There is a crisis in leadership at Local 100. We've been talking about it for a long time. I just came out of my arbitration, so I can't talk about it right now, but in the days to come, I will. As soon as the decision is rendered, I will talk about what is taking place. But I can't speak about it right now because it is still ongoing. But as soon as it is complete, we'll talk about that whole process and the experience. But I want to say this: the MTA and their abuse of power Something has to be done about it. It is no way possible that in this day and age, we are losing so much ground as a union. We are approaching contract negotiations, and there is no one competent to go in and fight and protect our CBA and make sure that we're not giving up more. So please sign the petition, like, share, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that whenever I go live and we are recording, you can be notified so that you can know that we are on. I hope that this gives you more insight into how compromised and how low down John Samuelson is. He is not a friend of TWU Local 100. And we need to discuss TWU Local 100's. Do we even need to be a part of the international? Do we need to be connected to the AFL-CIO? How does this help us? How has this helped us? Help us so far? Whatever yesteryear was, we're not seeing anything present day. We are just a cash cow now, funding our own oppression and our own demise. But we have to fight on. When we fight, we win. You keep fighting, you keep pressing, and you never give up. This is a very, very, very serious matter that we're in front of. So again, like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. So whenever I'm live, you can get the notification. Also, we're working to launch Inside Civil Service so that we can talk about all things organized labor, not only at Local 100, but just to look at what other unions, our sister unions out there, are experiencing the same type of hostile takeovers and opposition and receivership and all of the things that are going on, right? So it's very important that we understand this. And I want us to begin to really, really understand how these institutions work, right? Because when you understand how they work and what are your rights, right, you will fight to defend it. And right now we see labor being attacked, and we need to make sure that we're talking about these issues and being educated on the things that are happening so that we know how to respond. Knowledge is power only when you use it. Knowledge is power only when you use it. So thank you again. My name is Evangeline Byers, train operator at train operator at New York City Transit, member of TWU Local 100, and your favorite train operator. Have a good night, everyone, or good morning, everyone.